So, good evening, guys. Hi. You're actually tuned into the Millennial Dialogue, and this evening we have the pleasure of having a beautiful author, Miss Bontle Moabi. I'll be the moderator for this evening, and my name is Khumo Sematle. So, without further ado, really, because this isn't about me, it's about this beautiful lady over here. I'll just have Bontle tell us, who is she? What is she about? What gets her ticking? What gets her going? Just to get the conversation started.
Thank you, Khumo, and hi to everybody who is tuned in. I'm so honored. Thank you so much for the opportunity. So who am I? I am a writer and I have just published my first book. But just to give you like a little bit of background about me before I get into the book, I'm 25 years old, almost 26. I am pursuing a marketing degree. I call myself an endo warrior. So what that is, it's a great giant community of women that have been diagnosed with endometriosis. So, I spend time talking about like the struggle, with endometriosis. And it's just such an honor to actually be part of like this huge community of like women that go through these things. So I sort of find myself being that advocate as well for it. And, besides that, because I don't necessarily only identify, with that, I am a youth leader at church. And yeah, I enjoy writing, I enjoy art. And yeah, like I mentioned before, I just finished writing my first book. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
So, a couple of questions from that actually.
Okay.
What got you into the Indo Warrior, that kind of campaign? And what is it about it that makes you so keen to, yeah.
Yes. So I was diagnosed in November of last year, and it was actually a bit of a journey. So what happens is that most women, it takes about 7 to 10 years for them to be diagnosed, right? And I mean, for me, for a while, I thought it was that because, my mother struggled with it for a long time. And by can't remember the exact year, but she had had about like 19 surgeries because of it. And yeah, only until last year when I really, really was struggling and was dealing with the pain, then I finally got my diagnosis. So, it's all like issues with the womb and the ovaries. And yeah, so I just found, a support group online, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, where there's so many women like dealing with it, even though not a lot of people know about it, but so many women are
Go
struggling
through it.
and go
Yeah.
through it. Yeah. So I just thought that it's such a great, thing to be a part of. And
Mm-hmm.
if more people can get to know about it, and if more women can also go get themselves a diagnosis, then I think that would be such a great thing. So I thought I would play my part and just share like a little bit of information and just yeah, spread awareness with that. Yeah.
I think it's important work that you're doing because in like med education and everything, women's symptoms are generally relegated to like second best. We have been labeled as those who are very hyperbolic in the sense that we exaggerate everything. And because
Mm-hmm.
things like period and menses are so poorly understood, it takes such a long time to get a
Yeah.
diagnosis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
All
it's
right.
true. It's like the thing is, I think from such a young age, you're just told that, oh no, you'll be okay, you're normal. This is okay, the pain, but you find that actually pain is not normal. And
It isn't.
a lot of us are made to feel like I need to be strong and this is just part of it. I need to just get up in the morning and just be okay and deal with it. Whereas it could actually be something more serious
Mm-hmm.
than what it actually like is on the surface. And so yeah, that's why I think most women need to actually go get it checked out, and doctors also should meet women halfway and get that checked out, because they also maybe just give you a couple of pills and say you'll be fine, so
Yeah.
yeah.
So in your initial answer, you also mentioned that you like art. Other than writing, is there any other art that you perhaps like or even like a part of and use that as a medium to express yourself?
I think music. I do write sometimes.
Hey,
I wouldn't say I sing as much. Please don't ask me to sing.
I won't.
But sometimes, yeah, sometimes, yeah, I write music like when I'm inspired. I I love listening to music, so I think I take time to really appreciate like what other people have done. Um, Other than that, it's music and taking naps. I enjoy those a lot. So
I feel so seen right now. I feel seen. I feel heard. I feel understood. I'm for naps.
naps are necessary multiple times a day.
Listen, all day, every day. I big ups on that. Okay, so can we like get into the book? What is the book? How did you come up with the title? What is it about? For who did you write the book?
Okay, so I'll start with the for who. The for who is actually for me in a weird
Okay.
way, where I needed it for my own, you know, like healing journey. I needed to release some things, and in a sense, releasing this book is sort of like me just really letting go of some things that I've had a hard time dealing with and letting go of. So how church came about is because I believe I actually made someone my church, right? Initially, I titled it "I Made You My Church," and then I was like, no, okay, I made you my God, right? So that's how like naming the book came about, because I spent so much time feeling and being so emotionally connected to somebody that I actually started to think, no man, this is idol worship. I put this person so up high and they were so important that I think they took the place of a
God.
much greater thing, yeah, of God, right? So, a church is where you're supposedly um, meant to find, comfort, a safe place, healing, um, just something new. When you go to church, you're supposed to feel something reviving and all those things. So I thought I found that in a person, right? My comfort. I thought they gave me my purpose, like I found my destiny and they would help me fulfill that. And I thought that was them. But I only realized much later, when I was so devastated that it didn't work out, that um, I should have had that energy towards my God, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I really started to think that, like, okay, my energy and my love and devotion was sort of
Misdirected.
misdirected. And so, church is sort of my expression of this love experience, basically as a misguided worship experience. And so when I wrote it, I was really, really heartbroken. Um, it was about, let me think, this was in 2016, right? And when you're in love and you're happy and everything is going so great, right? You think you found the one and the love of your life and everything. And that's where I was at. But then everything changed, and it didn't quite work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for all that time, which is what, 4 years later,
Yeah.
I struggled with it, and I've struggled to let it go, right? And I wondered why. So I felt like I needed to maybe put it down on paper. So I started to put it down on paper, but I couldn't finish the book only until maybe about a year ago, right? And when I started writing, I didn't really know what I wanted it to be.
Okay.
But once I had picked it up again and just finished it, I knew, like, when I finished the book, that I was like, okay, this is it. This is me letting it go. I didn't even plan that, like, I wanted to finish it a certain way. I just knew that, okay, this is the way I need to end it. This is how it's going to be done. And yeah, I just knew that it was my way of sort of like releasing this thing from my heart, you know, out into the world, and no longer making one person my church, and rather falling in love with someone else who was, you know, my true God, my true religion, my true worship experience, you know. So yeah, that's
Why did you need the siesta, like a break, when writing the book between 2016 and now? Like, what were you going through that you just needed to step away from the book and?
So for me, when I write, I think I feel everything. So as I was writing, it's like I was experiencing everything as it happened. So everything kept playing as though it happened like 2 seconds ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was very hard for me to like separate, like, okay, this is just art, this is just a book, and like my feelings and my emotions and going through it. So I thought, like, okay, I need to get to a better place where, like, I think I'm more stable and I've healed a little bit more, then it won't hurt so much to write it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea that I was even ready to like pick it up and write it and finish. And even when I did stop, I didn't really know like what I needed. So I had to feel everything and just like let it hurt, you know. But yeah, during that time, I think I just was just maybe also very confused and just trying to figure out like why I couldn't move on, why I couldn't let go of, you know, this person and
One
this situation.
experience.
So yeah, because it just felt like everything had fallen apart for me from that moment. So I think it was me really trying to like rebuild, restore, and, you know, yeah, maybe get to know God as well, and also
Mm-hmm.
forgive myself for like dealing with things the way I was dealing with them, and for hurting as much as I did, you know what I mean? So I needed it to heal, really, so that
Mm-hmm.
when I wrote this, it wouldn't hurt as much. And even when I was at the point of finishing the book, I was not in the same place that I was when I started writing it. So much as, you know, it still hurts sometimes, but I
Mm-hmm.
can I can just read the book and I'm just like,
It's
okay,
just that, yeah. I
yeah,
was
yeah.
actually about to ask, like the framework, or rather the mind space you were in when you initially wrote the book, or when you were just going through all of that, and how that has changed when you're like sitting now today and looking back to all of that.
Um, yeah, so I think when you, in the beginning of the book, right? And I'll actually like read the first part of like how I start the book, right? But I'm not going to give away too much.
Cool.
I literally started with, you know, just the way, like where my head was at, you know, and I say that I made you my church, in you I submitted to the headship of Christ. I magnified the glory of God because of you. My sainthood was perfected in you, you know, and for me, that was how I basically how I'm so grateful to God for this person in my life. It's the most amazing thing. And yet I'm putting this person, on this pedestal. And in fact, the way I end the book, and I don't want to give it away because I really want people to go through that journey of like hurting,
Emotions, yeah.
coming out on the other side. But essentially what it is that it's really coming out on the other side and really like falling in love with someone else. And that someone else could be yourself, because I think even in the process, I even lost myself and just all the love went to one person. And I think sometimes, a lot of people do that, where you give of yourself to everybody else, where you forget yourself, and then you don't even have the same energy for, your creator. And I was so grateful to God for, a partner that he had given me, but I wasn't as grateful to God for his son that he sent to die for me. You know what I mean? So for me, I was like, I should be giving more energy to someone who actually died for me, instead of someone who, buys me chocolates on Valentine's Day. I mean, so
classic example of the giver versus the gift. Like, you're so appreciative of the gift, you actually forget there's like a bigger,
yeah. So for me, I really like forgot that. And so at the end of my book, it's really like you can really see the difference, that like there's no like hatred or anything towards this person, or even to myself. There's no like resentment or anything, but it's really like I found a new thing. I fell in love with a different kind of thing. So it's really like for me to show somebody that in the beginning, someone is the most important thing, but in the end, there's really something more important, including giving yourself that love and all that energy. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That's like worth celebrating. That's a milestone.
Yeah.
You get to pat yourself on the back for that one. So has poetry like always been your thing, even before the chest pain, or is this something you discovered through the motions?
I used to like poetry a lot. The funny thing is actually, I wanted to be a rapper once upon a time.
Okay.
It's gonna be like MC Light, Queen Latifah.
Hello, get a bone. I was B.
Yeah, so I used to write a lot, and I used to think I was just like the coolest writer in the world. And then I just like stopped writing for like not for any particular reason. But I've always just liked poetry. And so because I like music so much, I kind of see it as poetry in a sense, because of like the way people express themselves with the words and stuff. So, if it wasn't being a rapper, it was going to be a musician of some sort, or or
an
like eventually exactly an artist, but definitely to use my words. So I've just always really liked how people use like their words and make them sound pretty and express themselves.
What are some of the challenges you came across when writing this book? This is other than the emotional space you were in, just like on the administrative side, or just getting people to believe that you are doing this.
Okay, so I'm actually really glad that you asked that, because I had no idea that there was so much work in publishing a book.
No.
Especially if I'm publishing it myself, right? So one of the things that I encountered was, putting my book online, like for example, on Amazon. As far as I know, there isn't an Amazon.co.za, so it's difficult to get paid from that unless you have an international bank account, or know someone that does, or you have like PayPal. So for me, that was like one of the struggles, because it's like my book's going to be there, but I'm not going to really be compensated for it or anything like that. Another one is just how there's so many like little things that come with being, I think, an author. So you have to, well, not have to, but I just decided that I'm going to do these things. So, setting up a website and then, promoting it and marketing it. And so I don't think a lot of people have teams or a budget to do those things. So you really have to have people around you that just want to support you. And then I think once you're successful, once you make it, then you know that like these people have your back, and you can also, thank them in some sort of way, but they'll always have your back. So in terms of like setting up a website and putting the book together and calling people to actually, print the book. Some people take long, some people give you a certain quotation, you have to spend maybe a certain amount of money, or maybe you don't even have that money. So it's a few things. And then even the marketing, it's like you can only ask so many people that the rest is like they just have to catch on. If they like your stuff, they like your stuff. But part of it starts with like yourself, like I have to push my stuff first, or else.
And believe the product you're selling and trying to convince us to.
Exactly. It's like definitely like sales, because everything is a pitch. You just have to put yourself out there and just believe in your stuff, really.
Do you think like being Black and like just being a woman, the South African context, did that perhaps add a layer to the challenges? Did it alleviate the challenges in any way, or was like you're indifferent? It didn't make any difference really?
I didn't really experience anything necessarily in terms of, the color of my skin, or me being like a woman as well. So I didn't really get that. But I honestly think like it's actually a great time to be Black and to be a woman. And I say that because more people are starting to notice. It's taken a while, but now they're like waking up and they want to support, Black authors and Black African authors, and then Black women that are African that are authors, so a lot of people are now starting to like recognize, although like I don't think we're like at the top or anything, but it's nice to know that like, okay, more people, especially
we're on our way there.
Exactly, with how, Black Lives Matter and that sort of thing, people want to support Black businesses and Black writers and Black brands and that sort of thing. So I think my timing is kind of perfect. I'm hoping, because people really are trying to show that like, okay, they're awake now, they're more aware, they're starting to notice. Although, it's been a long time since we've been ignored, but yeah, I think it's a good time in terms of that. But I haven't really experienced like anything necessarily for me.
I think it's interesting that you say this is a great time to be Black and to be a woman, because me log into social media and it's all just, we're all destitute, we're all in despair, and it almost seems like there's no hope whatsoever. You always hear of the latest case of femicide, gender-based violence, sexual assault, and all of that. So for you to come out and say, hey, I'm Black, I'm young, I'm a woman, and despite all of this, we're still doing it.
Yeah, I think that like, and I'm glad you pointed that out, because there's two sides to the coin, where I think it's a great time to be Black and to be a woman, but it's also like, wow, it's rough right now to be Black and to be a woman, because we're dying, they're killing us. And but I think, something I saw is how, I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was just saying, just leave space and leave room for Black joy right now, because there are so many things going on. Don't feel bad that you're finding a little spark in the midst of this chaos. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to do that, especially when you're trying to, protect your peace, protect your mind. That stuff will consume you. And if you're like me, you'll feel those things like emotionally. It'll break your heart. You'll cry every day. because of the things going on, but you have to leave room for good things, or else we're never going to live, or we're never going to come out on the other side, or we're never going to see a light at the end of the tunnel, and I don't want to be, Captain Positivity or anything, but there's still room for those things. And in the midst of all this stuff going on, I think it's okay to hold on to like the good things that are still there for Black people, for women, for just anybody in this time,
Yeah, I think
So
we're all like just left feeling guilty, you know. It's like I must feel all of this. This must. I mean, it's terrible.
yeah.
And for me as well, I just decide to just shut off, right? Because I need to protect what
Yeah.
goes on in my head as well. So
Yeah.
it's great that you're saying, listen, I'm not trying to be Captain Positivity. I'm well aware of what's happening, but hey, there's this side as well that we really need to take cognizance of.
Mm. Yeah, no, definitely. I think um there is that thing sometimes where it's like, wow, okay, I feel guilty. Like, should I post? Maybe I should be posting more things to spread awareness about what's going on, and I should, take part and show, this sort of like
I was
solidarity.
about to ask, Jorge, in
Mm.
all of this, what is your role? What is my role? Right? You as an artist and mine as just a consumer of art, but also as an individual who is plagued by what is going on.
Mm.
And it can't be uniform or homogenized for all of us, but what is our role beyond the shares on Facebook and Twitter?
Mm. Yeah, so for me, like I generally do ask myself, I'm just like, okay, so what if we do attend the marches, we do hashtag everything, every name, we do donate, we sign the petitions, we, all those things. I ask myself, I'm like, okay, now what, So I think that in whatever space like that you're in, just educate maybe someone, do whatever it is you can, because sometimes I think a lot of people maybe feel that they don't have that much influence, or they're not in like a big position, or don't have a huge platform. But I think in anything that you do, whether you're a chef or a writer, or you do the garden sometimes, like I think everyone has the power to create some kind of change, you know what I mean? So there's no saying that like, no, you have to march. Maybe I'm not a person who's going to go and march, who has that in me, but I'm so ready to call out somebody for the wrong that they're doing. I'm ready to post a video about, whatever it is that I feel can educate the next person, share about, racism or whatever phobia or any kind of discrimination, So I think anyone can play any role, regardless of whatever position they're in. It really doesn't matter. Just the smallest thing can make the biggest difference if we're all doing it together. You know what I mean?
I just think it's exhausting that in June of 2020, we still have to have these conversations on racial relations and just gender. And it's really exhausting.
Yeah, it's true. It's like our parents and their parents, and
Yeah.
we read in history books how they were fighting for this thing, and here we are living in it, and we're still sort of fighting for the same thing. And it's just like maybe it's just shifted into something different, and it's more like systematic, and it's not just like out there where someone's calling you
Yeah.
something to your face, but it's more in the way that maybe you're not able to get a job, or you're discriminated like this, So things have just like changed in that way, but we're still fighting. And yeah, I think it's tiring, and I think people are tired, but I think it's a great thing that there seems to be this sort of like spark and energy right now that people have, that they want to go out there and fight and get real change. And I think that's the point, to get real change, not just, what do they call it? They call it like performative activism, where people are just doing it sort of for clout, if I can put
Yeah.
it like that, you know. So I think if people can get real change because they're actually really fighting and they found, you know, some steam again, then I think that's a great thing. But it's just exhausting and heartbreaking that we're still dealing with that now, like in 2020. You know, I was born free, but I'm just like, okay, but are we really, you know? So
Free.
yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
So, like, what's an ideal society for you? Like, this is South Africa, and it's just perfect. It's perhaps not perfect, but it's just ideal.
I think ideal is me leaving the house and trusting that I'll just come home safe. You know, I think ideal is me applying for a job and knowing that I'll get paid the same as, you know, maybe a white male, if I'm qualified for the job, right? Ideal is yeah, knowing that my skin color isn't a death sentence for me.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to say like we're gonna hold hands and sing kumbaya, but I think ideal is just fair and equal for every single person. Everyone has a shot, everyone has a chance, because what we have in common is that we're all human, no matter what you identify as, what you do, what your background is. And ideal is knowing that, yeah, you know, everyone just has a fair shot at everything, and to give, you know, the same energy, where if we really come together, like I look at the stuff that the government has done for the pandemic, and I think, wow, if we really are able to put in the work and do it together, I think we can make a difference. You know, there's obviously flaws here, but we can acknowledge that, wow, if we really put our heads together, we can make a difference, right? So I think giving that same energy to all the things that are going on in our country, for one, femicide, right? The gender-based violence and the women dying and all that, the same energy. For the, you know, children dying in other countries, you know, because they don't have any food. You know, for all the things that we're not necessarily shedding light on and giving the same energy to right now in the entire world. But yeah, an ideal society is really just is flattening the curve of everything, not just
Yeah.
focusing on one thing and then, but really just like to flatten the curve for everything, for, you know, unemployment. You know, so like I'm saying, I know I don't want to make it seem like I'm thinking of this, you know, fairy tale, um, amazing land that probably doesn't really exist, but I think it's possible to get to a place where there's equal and fair opportunity for everyone. You know, it may
I
take time.
remember I remember a friend saying that ideal for him is also walking into some corporate company, and at the canteen there, they're selling papa mohodu, like just those small things
There you
where
go.
even within our cultural differences, we can just be
Yeah,
seen and mm,
mm. I think, like, yeah, when I also say like fair and equal, it's like you're saying those small things where I know that
yeah,
I go into a makeup store, I'll find my shade of makeup, you know, and it's
bruh, and it's not locked up in some thingy where
exactly
you have to talk to the manager who needs to first call the president and the minister of police before they can open up the cabinet for you. And
exactly.
then you
So
find no testers, so you have to buy different shades and figure it out.
and then, you know, so there's like a struggle for that, because these things are not, they're not like straight up and right out there, but it's all like systematic, and it's all like
Yeah, those
subtle
subtleties
things.
as well. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think so. So I mean, I think a place like that, or a society like that, is possible, but it's just gonna take, you know, the people maybe in charge to hear us, because we can use our voices, we can use our platforms, we can use our art as much as we want to, but sometimes we need to be heard. So, you know, are we really being heard? I don't know, but I think if we also, on our side as writers or whatever that we do as individuals, we should not lose, shouldn't lose that fight and that steam, that energy. We should just keep going, and I think will bring about like real change. Yeah.
Do you think we're doing enough to get heard or to be heard?
Um, I mean, I always think that we could be doing more, but it's also like, okay, but are we even being heard with what we have been doing? So it gets, people get tired. How many times, every 2 years there's a hashtag where there's like a huge cry and there's lots of marches going on, and then obviously because people get tired, it dies down until there's like another death.
Wave, yeah.
Exactly. And how many of those is it gonna take? You know what I mean? Why do we have to keep doing more? Haven't we done enough already? So I honestly think that, yeah, there's always room to do more, but in my mind I'm just like, okay, but what else can we be doing? Why are we not receiving the more on our end, like the protection,
Yeah.
like get off our necks type of thing, in a sort of like figuratively, where they're stepping on our necks
Literally,
in terms of
yeah,
like
no,
everything, our cry.
literally. In
Exactly.
recent
Literally,
in
and
recent
exactly,
years,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So, when you're crying out, and I'll use that example, with George Floyd, where you're actually like literally crying out, I can't breathe, and you're not getting off our necks. Should I scream? Should I scream louder? Should I fight you off? Like, what more can I be doing? So I'm not sure that we have to do more, or if we're not doing enough, but with what we're already doing, it's still like we're not being heard, or we're still disadvantaged. And I really, I don't know if we need to be doing more, to be honest. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
my thing is like, for instance, with George Floyd, he literally couldn't do anything more. You can't scream beyond that. You can't fight. I can't beat. Like there's nothing more. There's physically nothing more I can do. We've burned stores, we've blocked roads, marched, been scorched by the sun. We're in offices telling our bosses no. I mean,
There's
what else
black
can we
out,
do?
there's all kinds of hashtags, videos. I also don't know. So that's why I feel like people are tired, people get exhausted and lose the energy, and only
And I
until,
think we should
yeah.
also be very kind to those who do get tired and not admonish them for never being for the cause in the first place, because it's really taxing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think so. I think, um, you know, we should forgive ourselves if we want to, like, just what we were talking about earlier on, like leaving room for the joy and
Yeah.
for the small victories. I think it's okay, and to just, protect your mind, because you're stuck between like, I want to make a difference, but I want to also protect my mind and my peace, and so I think it's okay if you get tired. It's okay, you're allowed to be exhausted,
You
because
really, yeah,
yeah, it's tiring.
fair
Yeah.
enough. So,
Yeah.
are you like an avid reader?
No, I'm not. Uh,
No. Okay.
no, I'll explain. So,
Mhm.
I used to be. Um, I really, really used to like reading a lot, and I used to read weird things also for fun. Just like different modules and just stuff about like the IMF sometimes, just different things, just to read. I know, don't judge me.
I'm
um
not. I'm intrigued.
yeah, so and then life happened, and I think sometimes what people don't understand is, I think when you're dealing with some stuff and when you go through a dark time, I don't know if this is like scientific or anything, but like it just gets hard to read. Like I remember there's a book, to this day, I'm still on page 13. Like I can't get beyond page 13, and it's a big book. But I would start the book and I would just like switch off, disconnect, So I just was not able to read for a long time. I'm hoping I can eventually get back into it. I'm able to like read, light reading, sort of poetry, sort of books, but like, other kinds of books, it's actually really difficult for me. But I think that has to do with just maybe, my state of mind, and maybe
As
just,
all your students, like your time is, you've been
yeah,
writing a book, you're studying, you're being
yeah. So
great.
I mean, even with that, I chose to focus on my health because I had like a bit of a dip. So I took a little bit of a break from, studying for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I just thought, you know what, let me just put things in a box so that I don't just take on too much, because sometimes you want to do everything and, because life is just passing you by. And then next thing you know, you're like a certain age. But like I try not to think about those things, So
Yeah.
yeah, I really had to put things in a box and choose the things that are like at the top of my list. And for me, this year was my health. And so part of my health, is obviously, my heart and my mind. So releasing the book would help me a great deal with both my heart and my mind. So um, yeah, I decided to obviously release that. But like I was saying, I just had to put things in a box and not to put too much pressure on myself to I must be reading, especially during lockdown. I was like, I haven't read a book. I haven't done an online
It
certificate or
happens.
anything
Yeah.
or so. But I really just had to like just stay focused on the things that I was just like, okay, one thing at a time, the time will come where I'll start reading again. And um, yeah, I think there's different ways to get information and learn things. So just not to put too much pressure on myself. But I will get there eventually again.
I think that's so important because as well recently I started working and everything, and the life I envisaged for myself this year is completely different to what I'm living right now, right?
Yeah.
I'm sitting in the middle of my lounge right now. I barely have any furniture here. And had you talked to me a year ago about what my life would be this year, this is not it. So just reconciling all of that to reality,
Yeah.
and just the pressures to be a certain age, to have certain things, to have done this and that and the other. Um, I think it's important to just take it as it comes. Take it. What I can do is what I will do, and I'll try to do it as best as I possibly can. And it's okay to take breaks. It really
Mm.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. One thing that comforts me now is, I started saying to myself, if I started today to study to be a doctor, by the time I finish, I'll still be under 40, right? And then I think of when I turned 30 and I said, if I start the day I turn 30 to become a doctor, I'll still be under 40, and that for me, like, kind of gives me consolation because I'm like, okay, what am I in a hurry for? You just have to survive today, and I think sometimes we take that for granted because days are hard, so getting and surviving your 24 hours is a big deal. How you survive that doesn't matter, just hang on and survive through it. Because, like you're saying, last year you had all these plans, but now look, all of these things are out of your control, and I think no matter how much technology or intelligence we have as people and planning that we do, there's some things that are really out of our control. And for me, I just learned that you just have to like surrender and just let nature and let God do his thing, because there's only so much you can do, really, you know what I mean? So you you have to just take one day at a time and celebrate every single day. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're being mediocre or anything. I think you just have to just celebrate the small victories, and that's something that I've dealt with because, when it comes to, for example, like letting this go, I thought I needed to let this go years ago, like 6 months, maybe after. I was like, okay, I need to let this go. But a year later, and I was still dealing with it. I was just like, yo, okay, fine. And then another year went by and I was still dealing with it, um, it's not always going to go according to your plans. So
Yeah.
be kind to yourself, you just really have to be kind to yourself, honestly.
You just gave us two quotables
Yeah.
about surrender and survive each day. Like, that's it.
Yeah. That's really it. Yeah, there's so much going on in the world. Like, why would you want to be more difficult and harder on yourself? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So you don't have to put yourself under pressure. And I think even, during this time, whether it's trying to make a difference, it's okay if you don't go out and march, do what you can. If it means, getting up to save yourself that day, you did something, you made a difference, so
Celebrate that.
yeah, you have to, you really have to. Yeah.
How different has your relationship been with yourself and with God since going through this experience and writing the book?
Mm. Um, yeah, at first, like, I think most people can relate to, being angry at God and why me? Oh my gosh, how could this happen? And thinking that, you've forsaken me. And, so I mean, that still happens sometimes, but I'm at a place where, like, I just think that even in my, throwing like a little tantrum and being upset because of, all of these difficult things, he pursued me. I didn't have to be the one to pursue him, and that's the thing that, like, I really thought was like so amazing. And I also sort of like mention it in my book, and where God has a way of showing up in the dark, in the desert, when it's like it's bad,
Yeah,
right? He just has a way of doing that, and it doesn't mean you must, you must look carefully. No, like, even if with all the mud in your eyes, he just has a way
okay.
of showing up, so um I believe he did that for me. He showed up, and I just allowed him to sort of, lead me, because, like I'm saying, in the dark, in the wilderness, you find that you don't know what direction you're going in. And for me, he really found me, hey, and he really convinced me that all is not lost, right? So the funny thing is, the cover of my book, right, it's actually a white cover.
Yeah, I was about to ask you that. Like, it's plain.
Yeah, so I'll explain that. Maybe it'll just also come into like what I'm saying. So it's a white cover, and it's written with black letters, right? Initially, I wanted it in black with white letters. Black is my favorite color, so I like everything black. But I decided to change it into white because I was just like, sometimes we focus so much on the black, on the cover, you see that there's this much black, right? And the entire book is white, which for me is like the grace that is so like overwhelming. It covers way more than the little bit of black that is in our lives, that we've done, the mistakes, the hurts, all of that. The grace, the love is way more, and it's enough to cover, those things, but sometimes we focus too much on the black, so that's sort of the message I wanted to bring across in terms of that cover. But that's what I felt in my life, where I was just like, yo, I've just I've made some
Yes.
mistakes, the pain is too much, and I was focusing on that, but I wasn't focusing on, the continuous, pursuing. Like, when someone you like does chase after you, I'm not talking about someone that like annoys you or gets on your nerves, but
Yeah.
someone you like, constantly buys you roses, sends you, chocolates and gifts. and you've been sulking the whole day, you know, but you're going to get your favorite meal. That's sort of the experience I had. And so that also allowed me to see that, like, okay, I'm worth it. You know, I've made these mistakes. I've had my flaws as well. I see where I was wrong in terms of different things, but yeah, you just have to accept grace. It's something like nobody really deserves, but you just have to accept it. You just have to take it, you know. It's like when your parents are shouting at you because you did something wrong, but then they buy you ice cream. You don't really deserve the ice cream, but you just have to take the ice cream. You take the ice cream and you eat it. And so that's just something I found. I'm just like, okay, I deserve the ice cream. Okay, not because I'm amazing or I'm the best thing, but because they've just offered it to me willingly. So yeah, that's really been like my experience and like my relationship with God. He has been chasing after me and hasn't stopped since. And I just, as much as I go astray every now and then, he's just like, I'm still here. Like, my mercies are still new for you every day. It's fine, you know. So that has allowed me to also just grow, like in terms of myself. And the most important thing is, you know, forgiving self for everything, for even just being so hurt, you know, because I also had to forgive myself for, like, why couldn't I let this go? Why was it so painful? Or why did I deal with it like this? You know, so yeah, you know, just going through that journey, I really had to get to that place where I thought I was worthy again, you know.
Okay. So I didn't realize we've been literally at it for over 15 minutes now. You're actually like so fun to talk to. Hey, I may have just found myself in your friend.
Yeah. Wow.
So where can we catch the book? Like, what will you be up to? Where can we catch you? Is there
Okay.
another book in store? What's popping?
Okay, so for now, I have released my book online, right? It's on Amazon.com, but you can find it on other stores like Barnes and Noble, Baker and Taylor, on Kobo, on Scribd, and on Apple Books. I had a little trouble with the Apple Books. I think it's just on the US store, you know, if you change your Apple store to the US.
The
But
American,
yeah, so, but I think it's easier if you get it on Amazon. But I know there have been a lot of people that say they like the hardcovers and they want to feel it in. I like it too. I do. I get it. So I hope people don't disappoint, because when it comes out with the hard copies, I will definitely let people know. Probably in the next week or so. I don't want to spoil anything, but you can sign up to
fingers
find
crossed.
out. Right? If you want to find out, you can just go to my website on bontlemoabi.com. Right? Sign up. You can see there's a link where to buy my book there, but you'll also find out, you know, for any upcoming deals, might give away a few books,
Oh,
you know. But I'm also on Instagram. I generally share there a lot. That's at bontle underscore. And yeah, but on my website, you can find everything.
audiobook, perhaps? Is that in the pipelines?
Not yet, but I
Not
might
yet.
look into it. I might look into
Cool,
it.
cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Okay. It's been great having you, Bontle. I really liked
Thank you
chatting you
so
up.
much. Thank you. It's been such an honor.
And to everyone who tuned in onto our Facebook Live, we'd like to thank you as well. Thank you to Sis Jabulile Buthelezi, who put all of this together and who's really dedicated to just millennials, African millennials at that, having such dialogues. It is a day after June 16. You're sitting, or rather in front of your two Black women under or around about the age of 25. And I don't know which better way to celebrate than with an author who just wrote her anthology on just the church and finding love, falling in love with herself and her newly found creator. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.